Welcome to Auto Off Topic. Andrew, what's going on today?
Oh, usual. We got some project car updates. We got to talk about some auction results
Sweet.
of interesting DSM, and we got some events going on.
Yeah, some good stuff and a couple minor blips of diecast stuff we'll chat quickly about. We won't spend too much time on toy
Yeah,
cars.
and an interesting story too about gas that kind of goes with that old episode we had about gas stations and such.
Ooh, excellent. This is I don't know what you're referring to here, so I'm definitely into it. You want to jump right into it with some project car updates, Andrew?
Yeah, we can do that. So I did work on the G20. Oh yeah, I got that paint the other day.
Okay,
They gave me like a card to like try it on, like a spray card. So I just did. It was a
sure.
white card, and I just did like one coat of it. It'll match. It'll probably take like 2 or 3 coats to get
Excellent.
the darkness, but it looks really close. And plus, they're not big pieces, so
No, and there's a lot of compound curves in them, so it'll hide any coloration issues there may be, but that's good. I'm glad it's going to work out.
yeah. So I got
I
to work
will
on
I
that.
will eat some crow for telling you it wouldn't work.
Yeah, hopefully I'll work on that maybe this weekend if it's the weather cooperates. But yeah, I got to do that next. But then I had the rear sway bar for the car. It's a Adco. I think it's like a 7/16 bar or something. Bigger rear bar, came with new mounts. I had to buy new rear links. Put that in. It was super easy. I did do a little video on it. I have a bunch of videos of that car I haven't edited yet to try to build up our YouTube channel some more. So I also did a video on the front links because I bought new ones and then put it's the old school style with like the 2 rubber bushings on the end. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's basically just a bolt.
Yeah, but then it
Basically
had
like
a ball joint on one
a
end.
long bolt with stacked washers. Okay, yep. So one end is a
Yeah,
ball joint and one end is just a bolt.
yeah, hybrid old school, new school version.
Interesting.
Um, so I had white line poly bushings for those, which is funny because the kit they sell you must just be their generic kit for those because it came with enough to do 4 like links, or if you had a set with 2 on each end. So I've got extras now. And then I did new drive belts because they were pretty cracked. That took me a little trick to figure out how to do drive belts in a front wheel drive SR20. It's basically like it's pretty tight and they're really deep in there. But it uses like the long bolts and the threaded block, kind of like a Subaru alternator or like Subaru belts, but those are like super easy to get to. I don't even think I'm trying to remember now if like the Talon and Gallant are this way. I haven't done belts in like 5 or 6 years on one of those. I can't remember how they go together now. Because I know you had to like
Yeah, I'm not.
yeah, I'm blanking on a Subaru and definitely on a Mitsubishi, you would loosen the pivot bolt that like say the alternator's on or the power steering pump. That's what it is on the I'm jumping around a bit, but on a Talon and Gallant VR4 power steering pump, you actually loosen the bolts and pull it over with a pry bar. And you tighten the bolts. There's no tensioner. But on the
So the
alternator, I
power
think
steering pump is the tensioner.
yeah, I think the alternator is similar. But anyway, you would loosen the pivot bolt, and especially on the Subarus, if you don't loosen the pivot bolt and you try to move this tensioner, you'll break the tensioner bolt because they're usually rusty. So I'm looking at this thing, I see it, I'm like, well, I don't want to break that tensioner bolt because it's really annoying. I've done it before on Subarus, and those are easier to get parts for, and it always takes a couple days. So I'm looking at it, pull up the service manual on my phone, looking. I can't see the pivot bolt for the alternator, but the service manual doesn't say anything about loosening it. It just says to loosen the tensioner. And I already made sure I had sprayed it with penetrating fluid and it would move. It wasn't going to break. I'd actually unbolted it from the alternator. It seemed like you were just supposed to like push the alternator down to like loosen it, wouldn't budge. I'm like, all right, well, I don't know. Let me try something. So I was over at my dad's garage. I took a brass punch because the alternator is aluminum. I don't want to hit it too hard and break something. And I tapped it with the punch and a hammer, and it moved down, like untension the bolt. So I guess that bolt just lives in the mount at a certain tension, doesn't actually get tightened down, so it can't move, and that's how you do it. And the power steering pump was like the similar on this. It's on the back side of the engine. I had to, I actually did have to loosen this one because it rusted a bit. It was steel to steel, and I sprayed it with some lube. It wasn't that tight. I undid the bolt, and then I was able to, by hand, go up top and pull it forward to untension the belt. I've got some cuts on my forearms because it's really tight in there, and you can't even go into the wheel well. But once I got it on and figured it out, it wasn't that bad. And they were pretty dry rotted and cracked. So,
Definitely good preventative maintenance.
well, yeah, especially because I was getting ready to do a track day. So the power steering pump belt also drives the water pump, which would be annoying to lose, and the belt off the crank pulley drives the alternator and the AC compressor. So again, also would be annoying to lose to not have
Yep.
the car charge.
Yeah, either way, you wouldn't be driving the car home probably.
No. So then I wanted to bleed the brakes. I put fresh Motul in them. Now I had done 4 calipers, new pads, rotors. It was like I think it was like almost the nicest pads you can buy on Rock Auto for this car. Still not very expensive, like Centric, whatever super ceramic pads they sell.
Sure.
So I remembered now the right hand side rear caliper was seized, like completely seized, and I replaced it. And as soon as I pulled the hydraulic line off, the old caliper fluid started coming out. Totally normal. Put the new caliper on, it gravity bled basically before I bled it through the pedal. This is way back when I was doing it. I go over to the left hand side to do that one. I remember when I took the line off, like no fluid was coming out. And I was like, that's a little weird, but
Yeah, I kind of remember that
whatever.
part of the story.
So I, put that caliper on, opened up the bleeder. Nothing was really coming out. I'm like, that's weird. So I bled it with the brake, and it was a little hard to press, but fluid came out and no air. So I didn't think much of it because it bled right. I'm like, cool. I did the flush. I got all the rusty colored. I guess the way to describe it would be like the fluid came out like a black tea, and the clean Motul that goes in looks like a green tea. Is like the best way to describe it. Like a dark. It's like dark
Well, that's
iced tea.
very convenient way to describe it because I'm currently drinking a glass of Arizona green tea, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's that very light golden
Yeah,
color. That's what
yeah.
fresh brake fluid should look like. If you've got regular iced tea and it's that dark golden color, almost caramel, that's dirty. And if it looks like Coca-Cola, you're in real big trouble.
It's well past. Which the
Yeah.
majority of cars on the road do look like that because nobody ever changes their brake fluid.
It's an underrated fluid to change. It makes a huge difference, especially when you do a track day because it heats up. You can boil it because it attracts water. So
Yeah,
anyway,
no, it's definitely an overlooked maintenance item by a lot of people. Even like dedicated car enthusiasts often don't
yeah.
properly maintain their brake fluid.
So originally when I did the brakes, I didn't have 4 jack stands handy to bleed the proper procedure. So I just did the normal furthest one from the reservoir, second furthest one from the reservoir because I was doing the rears first. But when you actually read the service manual, you need to have all 4 wheels off because you bleed the right rear furthest, then you jump to the front left
So like
driver's side.
cross pattern.
Yeah, it's got a cross pattern setup circuit, and then you do the left rear, and then front right. Interestingly, when each one that I did, as soon as you loosen the bleeder, except for the rear left, like bled really easy. Like you could tell that the system was open. The right one was like really hard to push the pedal. It was making like it's making like a squeaking noise when I was doing it. I was like, I don't know. It's coming out with no bubbles. Kind of weird, but it should be working. Um, so anyway, come to find out, and I kind of realized this during the track day a bit, and actually on the highway, I had a panic stop on the way home. The car jumped to one side.
Okay,
The
so one side was definitely more grabby than the other.
Yeah, the left rear is not actuating as hard as it should. Like it's barely grabbing. And I'm almost wondering if this is related to the ABS light coming on because it's being tricked into thinking it's not
Oh,
working.
yeah, that could be it.
So I want to try to fix this problem before I even attempt to change the sensor.
Yep, for sure. I didn't even think about that.
Because it's seeing the other side slowing down and this side not slowing down. And the only thing it can think of is that the sensor's bad because otherwise the car is slowing down. Like it's sort of working.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, stranger things have happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, I figured it's best to solve this first and then figure out if it needs a sensor or not.
Yeah, it's worth a shot anyway, regardless of anything else.
So you again look through the service manual. It's got a dual circuit proportioning valve, so it's I believe it's similar to the way a Subaru brakes are set up, where they're across and not front to rear. So it's like the I think it's the front. Yeah, it's front left. Sorry, front right, rear left, front left, rear right. Is like one's the primary, one's the secondary. And it actually shows you how it goes through the valve. But it's not like some proportioning valves are just basically like a block with all the lines going in them. And there's probably restrictor valves in there. This one seems to have like some extra nitrogen thing maybe on it for ABS. Maybe it's some sort of damper. I don't know. Turns out it's not
Hmm.
available anymore. Annoyingly.
Much like most things for this car seem to not be available anymore.
Um, like not even through looking at like I looked at like parts Sork, which goes through like the Middle East. A lot of people use for JDM cars, and then I looked at Adiyama, which goes through like Japanese dealers. Uh, so I found it supersedes another part number. It's literally, so far I can tell, this brake proportioning valve is only available in 94 to 96 G20s and 90 to 92 Nissan Stanzas.
So cars that just don't exist anymore, except in your driveway.
Exactly. So G20s have a little better chance of existing in junkyards. I'm gonna have to try to find one. It's annoyingly on the firewall. It's not something that people usually salvage because it's just not a common thing to go bad, but apparently it can go bad. So yeah, I'm gonna try to find one because I looked it up for some other non ABS cars, and it's basically just like it looks like a junction block for like fittings.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't have this little extra thing on it. And maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know.
I'm sure you could make something work at the end of the day. I mean, you don't want to change it to like a manual valve or anything, but worst case scenario, there are aftermarket solutions that would work to, make it work somehow in the end.
Maybe it's got four lines going in.
Yeah, there'd have to be a way to. There's a way. What is a will is a way, right?
Yeah, and I would prefer to just find an original part to put in it because I
No,
don't.
absolutely. But I think one of the neat things moving forward about older cars as parts become more and more scarce for cars that we like is there will be people who are figuring out these solutions for stuff like this. It already exists in the DSM world where parts aren't made by Mitsubishi anymore, so people have made their own and are doing a pretty good job of it. So hopefully it'll start becoming more common for some other cars too.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just keep looking out for one. So if anybody's got a Nissan Stanza that they're parting out,
Looking at you, Ethan.
yeah, no, that's a is that a wagon?
It's a Stanza van. I
I
assume
don't
it's the
know.
same.
I don't know what year it is though.
Oh, I don't either. He's the only person I know who actively owns a Stanza, though, so it made sense.
I had to Google that Nissan Stanza generation. I was like, I don't even remember these,
What year
and I
was
don't
it?
even 90 to 92.
So it's a very square car.
Yeah, I'm like, it was apparently replaced by the Altima, so it must have been smaller than the Maxima.
It was in between a Sentra and a Maxima.
Yeah, so that would have been the Altima. It
Yeah.
eventually became the Altima. Yeah, it's a totally forgettable car, like completely forgettable economy car.
I forget what they were based on, but there was a cool version of it available overseas. Um, Maybe it was a Bluebird.
Yeah, it was. And then what happened was the Premier G20 replaced it in Japan.
Okay, so yeah, there was a Bluebird version of it, and there was like an SSS version, I think it was called, that was an all-wheel drive turbo,
Huh.
and it competed in like Group A and rally stuff overseas.
Huh.
Um, I'd have to do a little more digging because I'm just like grasping at straws in the back of my memory for obscure dumb cars. Um, but I'm pretty sure it's the car that had these two big fog lights built into the grill too. It was pretty sweet. Pretty sweet
That
little
sounds
car.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a Bluebird. Oh, Bluebird. Yeah, a Tessa maybe.
Sounds right.
Yeah, Bluebird SSS a Tessa or SSS Bluebird a Tessa. That was the all-wheel drive like homologated race car version, which was kind of cool.
Mm.
So anyway, I'll get into that. I have some corrections for next episode, but they are neat cars. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
because that,
So
that that became the Ultima because the first gen Ultimas weren't. They actually were decent cars when the first gen Ultimas came out. They weren't the you know rental spec car they became. They were a fairly competent economy car. So
I can't even picture the first gens.
um, so you remember the Disco Potato from Sport Compact Car?
Oh, those Altimas. I confused those with the Sentras that were similar
So it was
shaped.
the one. So that was the facelift of, but it was the earlier version of that. So
They did look like a potato.
I think so. Yeah. Or maybe that car was. Well, now see, man, you're digging too deep into the weird car knowledge. Maybe the car was a Sentra.
I don't know. They remind me of like, this is weird, but like a seal's head. Like they look like the head of a seal. Like if
I don't
you
know what you're
picture
talking about, so I'll just leave that alone. But that's okay.
all right, like what a seal looks like. The
I
head of
do
a
know what a
seal is
seal
just kind
looks
of
like.
round and like frumpy looking. Imagine that as a
Okay.
car. That's what that car is.
Sure. I'll let your imagination go with that one. This is like we're both lying on the ground looking at clouds, trying to describe a cloud and not knowing what the other one's talking about.
All right, all right, all
Don't
right,
know what
all
you're
right,
talking about.
all right. Did you do any car stuff?
I'll have to look up the disco potato too, because now I'm questioning that. I'm gonna have to pull out the old Google machine here and see if I can figure it out. So that was a Sentra. Dang, nah, I screwed it all up. So it basically looked like that car, but earlier. It was probably the same size as that Edge Generation Sentra.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, can't
anyway,
remember what they look like. But
moving
have
on.
you worked on anything?
No, I have not actually. I haven't touched a damn thing. I've been back in Phoenix now for what, a week and a half. And not only have I not touched anything, I haven't even like set foot in the garage or moved a cover off of a car. I've just been too busy with other life stuff. So,
Not
which
even any cars and coffees or anything, huh?
I haven't done anything. I literally have done nothing. Um, I have some life updates to go over a little later on in the podcast when it fits in, and that will explain some of it. But last weekend, I did go to Cars and Coffee last weekend, but I didn't even bring a car. I didn't bring a car because I had plans to do something afterwards, and it was 4 till 4's Adventure Machine Day,
Yeah.
which isn't really, it's more like if I had a Range Rover or a Land Rover or a Montero out here, I'd bring it, but I don't. So I just took my Volkswagen to go out there and meet up with our friend Chris because I hadn't seen him in about a month from being in Massachusetts. We hang out, catch up, grab some coffee, and then I had some other stuff to do. So I didn't even bring a car to Cars and Coffee. So I just parked down the street and walked up. So it was definitely. I've been. I don't know who I am this week, Andrew. I'm very lost.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Thankfully, I have cars on my desk to make me feel like a car guy still, because
All right. Cool.
I haven't touched a thing. It's it's been weird, and the weather's been strange here too. It's been very monsoony with like heavy rain and debris and wind and just not stuff you want to take your nice cars out in. I
Yep.
don't mind driving them in weather, but actively driving in like flash flood warnings and falling trees and all the debris that's in the road here after a rainstorm. It would border on abuse of the car. So everything just kind of stayed tucked away and not touched and not worked on and not nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
I should be outside right now actually working on a car because it's like super cool out today. But no, we have a podcast and we're dedicated to our podcast.
Oh
So
well, sorry.
I'll sit here and chat with Andrew if I have to, I guess. But yeah, no, I haven't touched any car stuff. Sorry, Andrew.
All right. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Bad podcast host.
Hey, auction results.
Big time. Big news. Big news. The first one to crack the barrier, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also local to me.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, unfortunately, but
no. So a Talon, a 90 Talon TSI.
yep. So first year.
When I'm bringing a trailer, it's purple with the black roof, silver bottom.
It's like black cherry.
Uh,
Yeah, black cherry.
Black
I think
cherry.
is the color name, right? Yeah.
I don't remember.
Pretty
I think
car.
people call them black cherry. Yeah, typical. It's the gray interior they all came with. I think it's a low mileage car. I gotta pull it up here.
I think it's sub 50,000 mile car, if I remember correctly. I should have prepared and pulled it up, but I didn't because I was pulling up some
I have
other
it right
stuff.
here.
Yeah, it's a $20,850 with 41,000 miles.
41,000 miles. Yep.
Yeah, it's quite a car. It's got a couple of things that aren't correct. I noticed it's got a weird exhaust on it.
Yeah. So I remember talking to him on Instagram about it. Somebody changed the exhaust or it rotted off or something. Or I don't know. He was trying to find the original exhaust, and I was like, "You're gonna have a really hard time finding the original exhaust in any type of good shape." So I think he did his
I think
best.
that was the worst. The worst thing on the car was the lack of a twin tip exhaust. It has like a weird single tip exhaust system on it.
Yeah, it just has like a replacement, but that's easy to fix.
Yeah, and I guess even a low mile car will suffer probably even more so from exhaust rot because it builds up moisture inside and doesn't get driven enough. So probably normal thing, but it's a super nice car, and it almost pains me to say this, but I would pay 20 grand for it.
These days I would.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had the space, yeah, I'd be looking for one to just keep as a stock one because I do just have a very soft spot for these and a soft head. So
and well, we both have that. I mean, listen, I have a few dollars now into a non-turbo first gen, so I don't have 20 grand into it by any means, but more than if you told me a few years ago I'd have more than $500 into a non-turbo Eclipse, I would tell you were crazy. And I have significantly more than $500 into a non-turbo Eclipse. But this Talon it's pretty much my old car with a different color.
Yep.
It's same options, same interior. It has the cassette deck and the CD player stack, so it's 2 single DIN units. I mean, it's pretty much non sunroof. It's optioned exactly the same, save for the color as my 1990 Talon was, and it certainly makes me, yearn a little bit for my old Talon because that was the car that really that was the car that kicked off all of this real car stuff for us. I mean, neither one of us had talent for our first car, but we both had one for our second car, and it's really what kind of shaped us into the dumb Mitsubishi nerds that we are today, right?
Yep. So have you ever talked to this seller? I talked to him because he was at Radwood Vegas with his Galant VR4, which is
Yep,
also super super nice that he bought off Bring a Trailer for like
yep,
15 grand, which I think is like the most expensive I've seen one sell for.
right. I've never met the man in person. I think we've had some interaction somewhere on Instagram or Facebook or something.
Yeah. I just
Um,
talked to him about the car because I own one, and I was just telling him how nice it was. It's the nicest one I've seen, and I think it was green.
the
I think it
Galant
was.
was Belize green, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was nice enough that we convinced the organizers. I think it got best Japanese that day,
it may have.
something like that. It may have. I
It
don't
may have.
remember. It was very
I
very
think
nice.
it got something. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
it was a good car. Yeah, it was a good car.
Hmm.
So yeah, this guy's got impeccable taste, and he only buys the best of the best. So he has his collection is constantly evolving and changing, but it's evolving and changing around cars that we like. So he's got a pretty significant collection of Hondas too that are Hondas and Acuras. He's not
Yeah.
just
Golden era.
Mitsubishi for sure. Yeah, he's
Golden era
definitely got a
Honda
lot of
Acura.
golden era Hondas. So it's funny because there's three people that I know of within an hour of here that all have a pretty significant collection of golden era Hondas and Acuras. So it's a weird little convergence of them here in Phoenix. Well, they're neat. This car's neat. It's neat to see one. You know, obviously it's a collector spec car, and $20,000 is not what they're all worth now. But it's neat to see one getting the recognition that it deserves um, as a collector car. They kind of have faltered for a little bit. I think one sold for like 15, maybe not too long ago,
A year ago.
a year ago.
Yeah, I think so.
And there were some that were in the quite a few of them in the $10,000 range.
Yeah,
So
for a few years before that.
yeah, so I
So
would if I found a
they're
nice
getting there.
one, I would if I found a nice one and it happened to pop up in a moment in time where I had the money to buy one, I would certainly not. I would not buy one for $20,000 if I could. Had I been in a position to, I just think that
Yeah.
they're a good car that you're not going to lose any money on, and they're one of those, you know, up and coming collector cars. What I also always look at because, my other dumbness is conquests. So one just sold yesterday on Bring a Trailer for 22,250.
That's up
So those
there.
are
That's not the
also
most
yeah.
expensive one, right? But
No,
it's up there.
there's one that touched 30, but it only had like 8,000 miles on it or something. This is a more reasonable car. It's a 75,000 mile car.
Yeah.
Um, it's a very nice car. It's an 89, so we've talked about that before. 89 is the year you want to get. It has all the correct options. I think it has the SHP package, the super handling package. It has louvers, which I don't love, but hey, they're there. Um, and it's just a super clean car. It's actually in New Hampshire. It was in New Hampshire. I don't know where it is now. It was in New Hampshire where it sold from, but it's again another one of those cars that for years a 75,000 mile Conquest was a $4,000 car, which as a cheapskate enthusiast, obviously I appreciated. But now, as somebody who wants to see them saved and not all driven into the ground, I also appreciate seeing a $22,000 Conquest because it means this car won't be driven every day and driven to the ground. It will be, owned and maintained and taken care of forever. So I'm into it. I'm happy with it. I like it. There's another one ending tomorrow at Sotheby's, so that'll be interesting to watch too because Sotheby's is a interesting, more spendy platform, and it'll be interesting to see where one at Sotheby's goes to. That one's got some more miles on it. It's also an '89 Conquest. Um, I think it's offered at no reserve, so hopefully it
Hmm.
goes for decent money. I don't know if it's online bidding live or if all the bids go tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly how that works with Sotheby's, but it's supposed to sell tomorrow. So I think it's an in-person auction. But that'll be one I'll definitely be watching tomorrow because it's one of my favorite combos, the bright red over the tan leather interior, which is one you don't see very often. Usually red's got a black interior and tan interiors with a white car, but it's a neat car, and I'm definitely into it. So I have some other auction news, Andrew.
Oh yeah,
I have a new job.
congratulations.
I know you already know, but that's okay. I no longer work in the
Well
insurance
then,
industry.
congratulations rescinded.
Yes, I no longer work in the insurance industry. Um, an opportunity arose here in the area that kind of fit everything we do, and it really fit my want and desire to do nothing but look at pictures of old cars all day and discuss them. So I kind of jumped on it. I say it's auction news because I'm working for one of the top five, maybe even top three online vintage car auction houses. Um, it's autohunter.com. It's presented by classiccars.com, which is a long time existing online platform for selling cars. And then our main parent company actually is Barrett Jackson. So it's a pretty interesting place to be. Um, I never, I didn't set out looking to work for an online auction company. It just kind of happened. The opportunity arose. I took the shot and took the job. So basically, I sit at a desk all day and look at pictures of old cars and determine values and set reasonable reserves on cars so that we can sell them through and get cars on to their next owners. It's definitely eye opening being on the other side of it. Seeing what the cars come in at and what customers think that their cars should sell for versus what they probably will sell for, and trying to meet that happy medium of making the customer happy and also making it a level of car that we could sell for that price. Somebody, I won't go into specific examples because I don't want to, we're public here and I don't want to have somebody hear me and say that I'm making fun of them specifically. But if you have somebody that thinks their car is, say, worth $200,000 and it's a $30,000 car, it's an interesting conversation to have. It's neat to kind of see the back end of that. Obviously, 200 to 30 grand is a big, a big delta. But even some people that will see, a 1990 Eagle Talon sell for $20,000, and then the next day they'll be like, "Well, I'm trying to list my 1990 Eagle Talon for $20,000. Will you list it?" And then, if it's a nice car, obviously we'll look at it and say, yeah. But having that conversation with them when it's a 150,000 mile car with, a repaint and maintenance and modifications, and we're like, no, you're gonna have to list your car for, I don't know, we'll put a reserve of 7 grand,
Hmm.
and it's interesting to see um, where those numbers come from and go to. Trying not to be too aggressive and ticking off customers, but at the same time trying to make sure that we put the car at a reasonable number so that it sells and we can maintain a decent percentage of sales, because at the end of the day you want to keep your sales up because people are going to use you because your car's going to get sold, right? So it's interesting being on the other side of it, and it's some a lot of neat stuff happening with Barrett Jackson acquiring the company and learning all the ins and outs of some Barrett Jackson stuff and trying to figure out what's happening there. And it's going to be exciting for me, and I'm pretty sure this is going to make some interesting podcast discussions in the future too, especially when events start happening. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that I can't talk about yet, but I'll be excited when I can. Let's put it that way. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm pretty excited, and I gotta say, what, Andrew, it's a trip because I've spent my entire adult life working in and around cars. Right.
Exactly.
The biggest frustration for me was working in and around cars. I've never worked with car people,
Right.
and now everybody I work with is a car person. So having a conversation about customer cars or cars that are listed places every day is just work,
Yeah.
and that's pretty damn good. because I could talk about cars all day, as you know, and as our audience knows. But to be in a place where everybody's an enthusiast, everybody owns vintage stuff, everybody has a toy, um, you're not looked down on for wanting to have some weird old car. It's just it's a normal part of the culture there to own strange things. I sit next to a kid every day who has a 944, and we talk about going to some of the same events, whether it be 4 till 4 cars and coffee, or a different shows here and there, or different drives that we enjoy taking. And it's refreshing from being in a place where nobody wants to even care about cars, and the fact that I drive a car older than 2010 is considered dumb and awful. So it's a neat culture change, and I'm 100% here for it. They always say don't do what you want to do as a hobby for your career, because it'll burn out your hobby part of it. But I think that talking about cars all day won't get old for me. So I'm pretty excited for it. I've only been there about a week now, but it's been the most enjoyable work week I've ever had. So I'm stoked.
No, it's good.
So yeah, everybody go to autohunter.com and check out the site there and see what's going on. I don't write all of the listings, but I'm sure if you start reading some of the listings, you can figure out which ones I wrote. So they have some of my typical language in there, probably. You can read it with my half-assed Boston accent, right? So it's autohunter.com. It's of no relation to Auto Hunter that used to exist in New England.
I
Which
think that was the Auto Hunter.
Yeah, but nobody there was really aware of it because it's so far removed now; it doesn't exist anymore.
No.
They were all kind of like, "What?" I found a picture of the old Auto Hunter magazine online and showed them, and it was like, "Oh my god, that's interesting." So it's totally removed from that. Like I said, it's
I think it literally went out in like early 2000s. Like I
whatever
remember,
Craigslist started taking off, and all the print
yeah,
ads started dying. So those who are not in New England, Auto Hunter was based in Saugus, Massachusetts. It was a weekly, I think weekly, right? A
yeah.
weekly like newspaper print classified magazine strictly for cars.
You paid when you sold your car.
Yep,
So I don't know how well that worked out all the time.
the honor system.
Yeah.
Actually, that's I forget which car. I definitely bought a car through Auto Hunter. I don't remember which one.
Was it the Talon?
No, the Talon came from the Salem Evening News, and I still have that ad clipping saved aside here. So I don't know why, but I do. So
I used to like the shorthand you had to use.
yep, yeah. PS, PW, AC,
Yeah.
CD,
Yeah.
CC. Yeah, it was definitely because you only had so many characters in which you could describe your vehicle.
Yeah. It was even less than like, Twitter first was like 140. Now it's like 240, but it was even less than that. It was like 50 or something.
Oh, I don't think it was even 50. It was like you had the main description, and then you had like I don't know 25 letters in which to describe your car, and it
Yeah.
was $6.99 a week to run the ad. But yeah,
It'd be
the auto
one tiny black and white picture.
yeah, the Auto Trader was neat because it had the pictures, and it had usually had a color section maybe on the cover. We could have a feature car on the cover for extra money. But yeah, it was definitely a trip. But that is no longer in existence, and Auto Hunter is now an auction site geared towards vintage cars. Um, there's no specific. I don't want to say there's no theme. It's not rad for sale. It's not taking away from those guys because still want those guys to do great as well. It's not cars and bids where you have 1980 and up cars. It's anything interesting. They definitely skew a little bit older because a lot of their clientele is coming from the classiccars.com online sales, and that is always skewed a little older. It's like kind of like 75 and down cars, but we're trying to expand and kind of move into all the other markets. So if you go on there now, you'll see some more modern cars around there right now. I think we sold like a 2013 BMW 635 convertible today. Um, we've done a couple of new Shelby GT 500s, and currently there's a Mustang Saline S281, like a 2009. So there's some newer stuff on there. I did do a search to see what Mitsubishis we've sold because Mitsubishi nerds, and apparently we've sold two 3000 GTs and a Diamante VRX.
Interesting.
So yeah, there's been a couple cars gone through there, but they're based here in Arizona in Phoenix, but it's a North America wide site. We have cars all over the U.S. and Canada for sale. It's not just local cars. It's seen everywhere, and it's growing quickly. So it's neat to see that. But anyway, yeah, that's my big news. That's why Andrew is being ever patient and waiting for me to get home today because I get stuck in traffic, and we're recording this at very late time in New England.
Oh yeah, I guess it is. I had a coffee with dinner, so
Okay, perfect. So you don't care at
I'm all
all.
right.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Suck it up and do the listening. Do the listening. Do the recording.
Yeah,
But I'm stuck in work mode. Do listings.
I guess so.
But it's really neat to see the cars that are out there for sale. It's absolutely amazing to me how many cars are put away in garages and just not touched. I mean, the stories that come in, like bought the car in 2007, have driven it 430 miles. It's like
Mm-hmm.
so crazy to me. I don't understand how much of that exists and
Yeah,
what.
there's certain cars like you should have, instead of buying that car, you should have parked that money in the stock market.
Yeah, and it's not even cars that they're buying as an investment. It's just like, I mean, again, not to be specific, but let's say a 1975 Pontiac Bonneville convertible. Like you bought it in '07 with 40,000 miles on it, and now it's got 40,230. And now you had to put all new tires on it and put a battery in it and do all the fluids and just to sell it. And the car is not worth anything still. It's just it's a weird, it's weird to me to see how many cars are out there. It just means that we need to get bigger on the campaign of, hey man, drive these things. Like they're cars. They're meant to be driven.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason just to park them. It's, you own this cool thing, get it out there and let people see it. Let them see how it used to be. I mean, I don't, like I said, I understand not taking it on a daily commute, but take it out on Sunday morning for ice cream with the family or something. It's just interesting to me. There's so many of them.
Yep.
Cobra Kit cars with 1,000 miles on them that were built since 2005. Like, how could you not put 1,000 miles in that car the first day you finish it? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
I think the thing with the Cobra Kit car, you got to be real into it. Like you probably think you're real into it and you build it, then you drive it, you realize you're not that into it because it's like a hardcore car. Like
Oh, it's a very hardcore car.
you gotta be pretty hardcore into it to really enjoy it. So then you realize how kind of annoying it is probably to live with daily. Like it's like the glory in your mind doesn't live up to how great it is to drive.
Maybe.
There's exceptions to everything. Like I'm sure there are certain people that drive the crap out of their Cobra Kit cars,
Oh,
but
100%.
there are a lot of people that just drive them to cruise nights, and it is
There
what it
are
is.
so many listed for sale at any given time, and I'm reviewing new listings on a daily basis, and I see, at least every other day so far, a Cobra Kit car has been in there. And the one I did today was a 2013 build, or sorry, 2006 build, and it had literally 1,175 miles on it. It's just like, even, I don't know. I can't imagine putting all that time and effort into something and then not using it when you're done.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like it, just at the point to be like, I built this, I'm going to use it.
Hey, some people just enjoy the project. It is what it
Yeah,
is.
I'm sure. That's just one example. There's so many cars out there that just they get bought and parked and not thought about again until it's time to sell it. And I just don't. It's just bizarre to me. I guess I'll never understand it because I like driving things, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Hey, got any scale project cars? Anything going
No
on
no
there?
scale project cars.
Well,
There's some
that's something
exciting
that
new
I've
scale
heard.
car stuff coming out. I did
Yeah.
just pick
Well,
up the latest Hitachi. I don't even know what the name of the series is because it's all in Japanese, but they do, it's a historic car, Japanese historic cars series. They do a monthly magazine where they release the magazine and a new 124 scale diecast.
I didn't
But
know this.
yeah, they just did a early flat body Starion. So obviously I
Oh,
had to
that's cool.
score one of those. I sent you some pictures of it actually pre-podcast. Um, I don't have a lot of the Hitachi cars. I have most of the Mitsubishis. Surprise, surprise. Um, I have a red Eclipse first gen export market car, so it's literally my car. They have a '74 Colt, which is a Lancer Japanese model. They have a silver Galant VR4, which is an '89. I think an '89, maybe even '88. It's an early car. They do a 124th early 3000 GT, and they have a Mitsubishi Celeste, which is a Plymouth Arrow. But I don't have the only one I don't have is the 3000 GT because they're not cheap, and I don't love 3000 GTs enough to spend that much money on
Yeah.
them. Um, and also, I already have a 124th scale 3000 GT in red from the Tamiya model that I built. And I don't have the Mitsubishi Celeste because it's hard to find for a reasonable price, and I'm not like $180 into it. So if I find one reasonably, there's also a Colt 600, so an early pre-Lancer pre-Galant Colt. I don't have that one either, but they're neat to collect. I mean, they're 124 scale, so they're model car size, but they're diecast, so it's kind of a strange diecast scale, I guess. When you think of 124th scale diecasts, you think of like NASCAR models
Yeah.
or like toy level kids toys. Not a lot
Or
of.
Franklin Mint stuff was
Yeah,
124.
Franklin Mint. That was a weird Franklin Mint, and all the mints in the 80s and 90s,
Mm-hmm.
which paled in comparison to modern stuff. I would say that these cars here are actually pretty much on par with an 80s or 90s Franklin Mint. Um, but they're weirder cars and they don't cost as much. So
Yeah.
I'm into it. They're hard to find. If you don't buy them when they first come out, then it's almost luck to find them later on, to not find them for exorbitant amounts of money, because they only make so many of them and then they go away and they don't make them again. It's
Yeah.
not it's not like a typical diecast manufacturer just pumping them out with new colors every year. They come out once a month and a new car each month and they're gone forever. So they're neat, but they're unimportant in life. I
Yeah.
have them anyway.
I've got some pre-orders for some Power 64 stuff.
Yep.
So it's come out in the fall.
Yep.
There's a Gallant. They're doing a white one.
They're doing a
Um,
white streetcar and a gray streetcar, and it's left-hand drive as well, which is neat.
yep.
And they're doing two new liveries on their Galant VR4 race cars. One of them is very similar to the already released one. It's the typical Mitsubishi rally car livery. One is a Monte Carlo rally, and this is going to be I think, a Wales rally, Wales GB.
Yeah, and I don't
Anyway,
have
and they're doing an
yeah, I don't
Advan livery as well. No, sorry,
the Advan
Advan's
the
already out. They're
Advan's
doing
out.
a camel livery, which is cool.
Yeah, I don't have the other ones, actually, which I need to find them. I didn't realize they were out. The regular ones.
The
Um,
camel one, you mean?
no, the camel one's not out yet. I don't have the regular Mitsubishi ones.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think I do. I got to double check
I
because
thought I thought you did because I thought I sent them to you, but maybe not.
I maybe I do.
We'll have
See,
to
that's the
double
thing.
check through our old
I
messages.
Yeah, I've been in, because just getting to fixing up my basement again after all the renovations. So I got to go through the boxes of stuff that I have so it can go back on the shelves and I'll
Yep.
have less boxes down there.
Put things on
Um,
display.
yeah. And let's see, there's a couple 850, Volvo 850 wagon versions that are coming out. There's like a Nordschleife one.
Okay.
Uh, there was a Par is doing a red NA Miata.
Oh, interesting.
Yep, that's pretty cool. Pre-order that. Problem is, I pre-order them from 1999.jp
That's
and
co.jp.
co.jp, and then I
Yep.
forget.
And they
I
come and
get
it's
the
like a
thing.
gift. You're like, oh, cool.
Well, I get the email like, "Oh, your pre-order's in." I'm like, "Oh, it's only $20. All right,
Oh, you
sure."
don't pay for them ahead of time?
No,
Oh, okay. See, I like when you pay for them ahead of time, and then 4 months later something pops in the mail. You're like, what is? Oh, sweet! I already paid for it. Nice.
yeah. So
So,
yeah, that stuff's cool.
yeah, there's some other stuff coming out that's interesting, but I don't have enough details in front of me to get into it. But um, there's an Advan version of the Starion race car coming out too, which I'm
Ooh,
super excited for. So anyway, you did some events this week, Andrew. You want to talk about
I
your
did.
track
So
night?
yeah, so I did the track night at the beginning of the month at New Hampshire Speedway, Motor Speedway, NHMS.
That was in the
Been there
Gallant, right?
before in the Glant. I'd been there before. The very first time I did it, 2008, was in the STI with an instructor. So I actually knew the track pretty well. So even going out and doing it 10 years later, more than 10 years later, 12 years later,
Long time.
11 years later, wasn't that bad. Car's pretty quick. Needed some suspension work, which I haven't put those coilovers in yet. Was running a little warm, so I was like, well, the next one is at Thompson. Never run the track before. I've only been there to watch stuff. Fairly new track. It only came into being, I think, in like 13 or 14. Like, well, it was an old track in the 50s, and I think it they kind of stopped using it in the 60s, and they just stuck with their oval track they had, and then they decided to reclaim the road course, and they actually like retraced the original road course and redid it. Um, so that it was one of those weird things where
Also, it's the original
in like
'50s design.
mhm, in or basically, and it's one of those weird things where
Interesting.
I thought in the early 2000s we would never see new racetracks in New England, and we had like 4 or 5 be built in the last 15 years. Like there's Thompson,
Yeah,
Palmer,
it's
Club
actually crazy.
Motorsport. Canaan was another old track that was reclaimed.
Yep.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, I
It's
was
cool.
actually listening the other
Great.
day to a Smoking Tire episode, and Matt Farah was talking very positively about what Palmer is and how nice the facility is and how cool it is. It's just like in the middle of Massachusetts, where you wouldn't think there'd be a racetrack.
Yeah, it's wild that they all exist. And then even just looking at Motorsports Reg, all of the track events that are available, like so many track events now. Like it used to be there was like 1 or 2 clubs when we were like getting into this in like the early 2000s. Now there's like 10 clubs that do stuff.
Yep.
There's no shortage of it, and that gets to my point coming up. So um, anyway, I want to go do Thompson. Uh, Glenn had been running. It was a little warm. I didn't have a chance to do any of the air guides to it or any of the other stuff. I was like, let me try the G20. It's a quicker track. I've never been there before. Use a slower car. Well, here's the thing. So track night in America, it's open to anyone. Basically, any cars can show up. You've got novice, intermediate, advanced. Um, I guess I'm not the first person to run into this. The problem is, and maybe it's not a problem. I don't know. It is what it is, right? So modern cars in the last 10 years, modern sports cars, incredibly capable. Like anything is fast.
Modern cars in general, it doesn't matter. I mean, we
But
talked about this before.
especially
It's 300 horsepower out of a Camry nowadays. Like
okay,
what?
but I don't give a shit about the Camry because it doesn't handle well. So disregard that. If you go out and you buy a modern sports car, you want to use it on a track. I get that,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
So you bought your new Camaro, your new Mustang, you get your new Corvette, your new Porsche 911. You've never done a track night. You never done a track day before. You're gonna go do track night in America. So you show up. You're in the novice class. You're fast as shit, like out of the bat, like
Yeah,
like which
you
is
can't not be.
kind of terrifying. um, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. That's just the way it is. I'm just I'm getting back into this from being I stopped autocrossing in like 2011. I used to autocross all the time. And I had the benefit of having I had a 2000 SI I started with in like '04, so a new car at the time. Then I had an '05 STI, and then I had my Evo 10, so like very modern, very quick cars at the time. Uh, Now I'm getting back into this. I just have older cars. I show up with an older car. I can't even keep up like in the novice class, and that's the problem. That's my main gripe, and maybe that's my problem. Maybe that's the SCCA's problem. I don't know. I mean they felt bad, like they're trying to like work with me. I'm like I don't know the track. I'm trying to get comfortable going faster, and it's like basically there's like 4 straightaways at
Okay.
Thompson, and like it squiggles, like it's got a long straight that you can hit over 100 on into a sharp hairpin, and then it's got like a bunch of switchbacks, and then it kind of pops you back out through their oval and back out to the main straight. But basically, each one of those straights is a passing zone. So I'm trying to like not go too hard down the straights because I'm just trying to learn this car. That's the other problem. I should have like autocrossed with this car first to like figure out the handling. Probably my mistake to go to a track night first with it. I was, I've had the Galant for a lot longer, so I'm a lot more comfortable with it. And then turns out it has this brake problem. So when a heavy braking the
Right.
car is moving around more than I expect, like it felt just wicked squirrely, and that doesn't feel like the rear bar. Like I've driven front wheel drive cars with a fat rear bar, they don't handle like that.
Right.
Because my SDI used to have a Type R rear sway bar, Integra Type
Your
R rear sway
SI.
bar.
Your SI, not
Yeah,
SDI.
SI. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I'm like, I just felt like a rolling roadblock because I'm trying to manage keeping on the line, taking this corner, but I'm also driving my mirrors more than looking out the front windshield because there's people behind me. So I'm trying to give point buys because that's the thing, right? Like I don't want to, like I understand I also paid for this track time too, but like I don't want to aggravate people and then have somebody do something stupid and wreck into me, like because
Right.
they're getting annoyed and they can't go past me because they're also technically uh, novices too. So it was just like I don't know.
It
It
sounds
was
frustrating. I totally understand where you're coming from.
I
It's
wasn't
almost
that
like
into
there
it.
needs to be a dedicated slow car night, but it's hard. How do you quantify that? How do you qualify that? And how do you make it make sense financially for the club to run it?
Exactly.
Is it a slow car night? Is it a vintage car night? Like, how do you do?
I, and I get
How do
it.
you
Like
do that?
a lot of people do it in slow cars, and like, what's the big deal? And it's like, well, you've probably been doing this a lot longer, and
Right.
you're used to going really fast. And a fast driver in a slow car will trounce a, a new driver in a new car any day. Like,
Sure.
absolutely. Like you can totally if you knew how to drive the track, and you're comfortable going fast, you could absolutely flog people in my G20. Like,
Yeah, I'm sure.
but I just
Yeah,
wasn't. I'm not used to it. I've been
but
out
you're
for too
Andrew
long.
Pascarella, not Randy Probst. Like, you don't know
Yeah,
that yet. You're learning it.
yeah.
I
I'm
totally
I'm
get
trying
that.
to manage learning it, and it's just like it was just so nerve wracking. I was like, this is not relaxing. This is not enjoyable. I think the
Right.
difference with NHMS, it has a lot of elevation changes and a
Okay.
lot of slower sections, and we just ended up more spread out, and it wasn't really bothering me that much. Like I really didn't have that many people come up on me.
You were also
Um,
driving a much faster car. I mean, the Gallant's no dragster, but you were able to get some pretty good speed in the straightaways, so that would eliminate that
yeah, give me
quick.
some distance.
It'll maintain some distance between you and the other cars. Whereas the G20 is strictly a momentum car, and you're not comfortable building up momentum yet, then you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah, I literally hit like 60 on the front straight because I'm like, I want to go over 100 because I don't know how this thing's gonna break into the front hairpin that only has like 100 feet of runoff to a wall.
Yeah, yeah, that would not have been fun to crash the car.
Yeah,
So
that's the point. Like I'm not. It's not a door to door race here.
yeah,
I don't need to
we've
have.
said it before. I think we said it last time we talked about track days. Like, you can't win a track day; you can only lose a track day. So let's try
So
not to do either.
I'm conflicted here. I don't because I'm talking to. Granted, the two people that run it or that were running it, they were dealing with my group. The woman felt really bad. She's like, put you in a different group. I'm like, yeah, but then they're just faster. Then they're like the intermediate, the advanced, they're even
Yep,
quicker. I'm like,
then you're
I'm
definitely in
just,
the way.
I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just not comfortable. I'm just gonna call it now. She's like, all right, well, you know, email, see if they can do something for you. I'm like, all right, I don't really care. I feel like I paid for it. I
Yeah,
took up a spot.
again, it's not they did nothing wrong. It's just it's
What do you
building that
expect to
comfort
show up?
level.
That's just, I mean,
Yeah,
a guy had a C8. I'm overhearing him. He's like, "Oh, I got to look up in the owner's manual how to turn on whatever." Like it was literally brand new to him.
Right.
which is fine. I get it. Okay, I'm glad that you're driving your cars too. Like you're not just going to
Oh,
cars
100%.
and
Yeah,
coffee.
that's what we
Like you should
encourage
use
all
your
the
car.
time.
And honestly, if I could buy a brand new supercar and go to a track day, I would too. But I can't
Yeah,
afford a C8 Corvette.
100%. Yeah, 100%. But the problem is you're out there with 120 horsepower and he's out there with 420 horsepower, and it just becomes a and if there's
It's
a lot of
tough.
straightaways, then it's tough for you. It's absolutely
It's
tough
tough
for
to
you.
manage. And even they were saying that they're like, there's a lot of really fast cars here tonight. Like it's just tough. Um, but so basically, I was talking to them. I'm conflicted whether or not I should even go to Lime Rock to do it because they're like, well, Lime Rock's even faster. Um,
Right.
and I'm definitely wouldn't be comfortable driving it, so I should probably um, decide that whether or not I want to do it, and then see if I can get my money back, which I probably can.
Well, I think that maybe driving the Galant would be a little more comfortable.
I don't even want to do that because I'm not used to the track. I don't want to wreck there.
Yeah.
I I think the best course of action is to not do it and to find another group that does instructor led laps. Because when
Yeah,
you're with an instructor,
maybe that's what it is. You need to build up confidence before you can go back to one of those events.
yeah, because when you're with
And
an instructor, and that's what I
it's no
liked about the
dig
very
on
first
you at
time I did
all.
it. No, I want
Yep.
an instructor because it's literally, it makes there be less cars out on track because they only have so many instructors and everybody has to ride with an instructor. So they break up the sessions a little shorter, but
Okay.
they tell you
Yep.
where to go faster, where to brake, where to take the line. If people are coming up behind you, they're helping you watch the mirrors. They're telling, okay, let this person pass, or you're coming up to someone. They're like, all right, we're gonna get this person's attention, then you can pass them. Like it's a lot better if you're not used to it.
Yeah, and then once,
And
like I said, once you get more used to both your cars at speed and the layout of the tracks you're on, then you can go back and do one of these, open lapping session track nights in America without as much trepidation.
then I should probably, well, I'm definitely trying to fix the brake issue because that made
Of
the car
course.
feel really weird. It actually made the tires feel like they weren't that sticky, but they probably are. They probably just weren't hot enough.
Right.
Because around like on ramps, when you don't touch the brakes, the car feels really grippy. Um, and
Yeah,
then
the car turns in and rotates really well.
uh, probably just do a couple autocrosses with it, and then I'll give me some limit feeling. And that's probably a better way to approach this. I went a little gung ho with the track nights, I think. So I think I'll look into that.
Yeah, I mean it's not again, it's no dig on your driving skills, it's just a comfort factor, and the smartest move is to make sure you're comfortable in something before you hit it hard and make an expensive and painful mistake. So I totally respect that, and I'd probably be in the same situation. I'd love
Well,
to start doing some track days, and my cars have not even 100 horsepower. So
yeah, if you showed up in your Colt, it'd be like, oh my god.
yeah, that's what I mean. But they shouldn't.
It'd
It's a
feel like you're
run,
in a Model T.
yeah, it's a run what you're brung kind of thing. But there's, it's almost dangerous to have an open track night with a 400 horsepower plus car and a 100 horsepower car on the same session. Just
Yeah,
seems like a recipe for disaster. I don't know. Maybe there's a better way to do it. I know
which I
there's a
know.
group on the West Coast that does vintage car only. It's like
Yeah,
pre
that's
85.
interesting. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. I was even talking to Paul from Hello Road, and because
Okay.
he does it with his Fit, and he was like, yeah, he's like, I've really thought about setting up a group that's like 150 or less horsepower.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you can call it high fun, low horsepower,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it would. That's the other thing. It would be really fun if you have somebody to pace with that's in a similar powered car that you could just kind of like do, follow chase laps with. That's probably
Yeah.
really fun.
Yep. Fun and a good learning experience too.
Yeah, because you don't have to race each other, but like you can switch lead follow. Like somebody, would just be like, because there's no good driving roads around here. This is like the only choice is to go do some track days where I live here.
Right.
And supposedly, Mass Tuning, we dogged on them for their events early on.
But we
Supposedly
dogged
run
on them
really good track.
not for their events, for the people that go to their events.
Yeah, so
It wasn't the
supposedly
fault of mass tuning. It was the fault of the people who showed up.
supposedly everybody tells me that their track events are very good because it
Yeah,
the
I've heard that.
the track eliminates all the jokers.
Yeah, well, exactly. You're not going to get people showing up. Part of the problem was all these, for lack of a better word, kids showed up, and they were showed up in cheap beaters, and they were all just getting high and revving their engines. Like it wasn't the car culture that you were looking for. Those people are not going
Right.
to show up at a track night because they're not going to be allowed to pull their shenanigans. They're going to be thrown out, and that makes it a little bit more inviting for true car people. And I think the cool thing from the pictures, at least I've seen of the mass tuning track nights, is there's less cars on track probably than a track night in America, and there seems to be a good number of smaller displacement Miatas and Hondas and things of that nature.
Yeah, I did see that I was looking at their schedule. They're doing like a specific Honda day. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like,
Right.
yeah, I bet like if I was into doing it right now, if you asked, like, hey, can I bring my front wheel drive Infinity
Yeah, can
because
I bring
it's
my
a
basically
similar,
Nissan, my
yeah,
Nissan Civic sedan?
yeah, you might be able to get a pass to get in or something. But
Yeah,
so anyway, that's my experience. Not as good as the first time, but trying to figure it out.
yeah. No, it's definitely a neat thing, and it's nobody can knock you because you tried it. And by trying it, now you know what you need to do to make it to the level where you can enjoy it.
Yeah,
So I think that's the important thing to remember. Like everybody's got to start somewhere, right? Anybody who gives you crap for saying that, hey, did you do it? And if you did it, did you do it in a 100 horsepower car your first time with a guy in a brand new Corvette pacing you, and a guy in a brand new Porsche next to him, and a ZL1
yeah,
Camaro behind him, and
yeah. It just felt a bit like, all right, you can like, here's the deep end, like when I just want to wade out and like doggy paddle.
right, right.
So anyway, other events coming up this week is Lime Rock Historics.
Yep. Labor Day
Um,
weekend every year.
yep, that should be pretty cool. Stephanie and I are going to take a little Marco down there on Saturday. Check it
I will
out.
not be there because I am not in New England.
Nope.
Actually,
Uh,
I'll be not be doing car stuff this weekend too because I'll be in Oklahoma.
yep. Coming up in October, I think, I forget what day now. Greenwich Concourse, Greenwich, the Greenwich Concord.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce that. It's green. It's spelled Greenwich.
It's Greenwich.
So it's
Greenwich
Greenwich.
Concours d'Elegance. October 22nd to the 24th. Um, I bought tickets for Saturday, so I'm going to go check it out because that is the same day as the Radwood class.
Okay, I think the main day is Saturday.
Yes. Um, yeah, I don't know. Just be aware it's not an actual Radwood. So,
Yeah, don't just show up in your 80s and 90s car and costume and expect to get in, because unfortunately it's not that. It's a Radwood display at the Greenwich Concourse.
yeah.
So if you want to join, I don't know if is it still open to apply. Probably not.
Oh, I have no idea. I
Yeah, I
assumed
don't.
it would be invite only.
I think you could apply. Maybe I'm talking out my butt now, and I don't know for a fact, but I thought there was
I
like a
My only gripe with them is it wasn't made very clear early on that it's not an actual Radwood.
right.
So a lot of people got really excited because it's the closest one to New England, but it's
Yep.
not an actual Radwood. It is a fancy concourse, and the tickets are like $80 a piece.
Yeah, they weren't cheap. Which concourses are
That
not? Yeah, so you can
Yeah,
still submit your car for review.
yeah.
So if you
Um,
have a car that you feel is worthy of a concourse and is also a Radwood era car, you can submit your car for review at Greenwich at radwood.com.
okay.
So
Which I did learn something. So it's being held by Haggerty, and also
yep.
Haggerty's been doing a ton of events. This is not advertisement for Haggerty. It just happens to
Hey,
be
listen, I
they're
endorse them
involved with
100%. Yeah.
they were involved with Track Night in America too. They're just everywhere right now. Um, if you're a Haggerty customer, I didn't really realize this, and I may have talked about going to the IMSA race at Lime Rock. log in and go look at the Drivers Club events section that you automatically get with your um, insurance policy, because you can often buy discounted tickets through there.
You actually
Um,
do pay a little more for the drivers club. It's
okay,
not
but I think
automatic with
it's
your
like,
insurance. It's like $30 a year. It's so cheap.
yeah, I think it was really easy to opt in and not opt out. So
Yeah.
I think most people get it. But yeah, so anyway, I basically paid for that subscription by buying the Lime Rock tickets for the historics. So they're normally $45, and through Haggerty, because I'm a Drivers Club member, they're $25 each. And they have a Haggerty car corral you can park in, so inside the infield, which is huge. You don't have to walk super far.
It's
So I was like,
$45 a year on top of your insurance.
yeah. So
But it's full worth it because it also
I,
comes, even if you don't go to any events, it comes with a monthly magazine. That's a super high quality magazine.
yeah. So and then for the Greenwich, it was like a 20% off coupon. So there's that, and then also that was the other thing at Lime Rock. They have like cabanas with like drinks and snacks. So like definitely, it's pretty cool. Like I was like, man, I really need to make sure I double check this every time there's a car event that comes up that I'm paying for.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you could. I mean, I'm just looking at it right now, and not even events. Like you get 10% off of an order at California car cover, 10% off
Yeah,
of Coker Tire, 15% off Griot's Garage, like $25 off every track night in America you want to do, 20% off Skip Barber.
yeah,
Like,
I've used that, and
yeah, it's pretty
and
good.
they'll insure you for a track night too.
Yep.
Like they'll give you specific insurance just for that night, so
Yep.
it doesn't go on your regular policy. Pretty crazy.
Well worth it.
So
I'm looking for their events thing. I don't see it, but I can dig a little deeper later.
yeah, all right. So we're getting a little long here, but let's get to the topic I had. Was we talked about gas stations and gas. This was probably a couple of years ago now. Um,
Yeah, we were talking about why certain states won't allow you to pump your own fuel and how it became the standard across the country and the history of fueling your car pretty much. We did a whole episode on.
yeah, so apparently Algeria has become the last country to stop using leaded gasoline in 2021.
It seems weird that it still exists.
Yep.
I didn't know it still existed because it seems weird that manufacturers would still be making a car for the Algerian market that ran on leaded fuel.
Well, it's interesting because apparently um, this is from an NPR article, and I guess I started on Twitter, and some people had some issues with it. They're like, there's some minor facts that weren't checked. Like it was still available in, or it is still available in aviation fuel and
Correct.
off-road fuel.
Yep. Yeah, like race fuel.
Um, that's why it has a sweet smell. Turns out it's not very good for you.
Lead.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, it's interesting. So they early on they realized, I had to double check with my dad here what lead was used for, because I kind of forgot, because the article I think was also wrong about that. So let's see here. The article says
The article
like
says it was
20,
used to improve performance in 1921.
yes. And then there are other, now it says there are other additives that could serve the same purpose. Today it's ethanol, which I don't think is true. Ethanol is used to thin gas out, basically.
Yeah, and keep corn farmers in business.
Yeah. But so what my dad said, it raised the octane level of the gas to prevent detonation. That made sense. I remember that. And then when I was, yeah, and then they could then raise the compression ratio of the engine to get more power out of it. Okay, raise performance. But what I couldn't remember exactly was, he said it also helped transfer heat from the exhaust valves to the exhaust valve seats and cushion the valves when they closed against the seats. And he said that's why you should put hardened exhaust valve seats in an older car with cast iron head.
Yep.
Said,
Anytime
well,
you take
start
apart like a pre 1972 car, you
mm-hmm.
want it. I think 70. I think it's 72 is the changeover. You want to
Yep.
put those hardened seats in there. I remember I did that in the in my '68 Camaro when I did the heads over. When I broke the timing chain, I had to do the
Yeah.
heads over, and I was like, well, I might as well go all the way and put the hardened seats in there because obviously they don't have to run the lead additive anymore at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And he said they had to stop using lead because it was clogging up catalytic converters, which is interesting because you could still get leaded gas, it says, until 1996, because a lot of my early 90s cars have little stickers that say unleaded gas only. And you're
Yep.
like, why would they say that? But because you could accidentally apparently still put leaded gas in a car
Yeah,
up
I've
until
I've
96.
certain places in the country that I've seen pumps that say lead lead added fuel
Yeah.
at the pump. Still to this
I've
day, I
seen
think actually.
I've seen ethanol free ones, and I try to get if I see that, I try to use that gas because
Oh
that
yeah, for sure.
you get way better mileage out of it because ethanol doesn't have the same burn power
It's not
as.
watered down. That's basically
Mhm.
ethanol is basically watering down fuel.
Yep.
So, well, it's neat that this country's not going to use it anymore for just everyday driving vehicles. I'm just, like I said, I'm surprised it still even existed as an
Yeah.
option
Wild, right?
for a daily vehicle. Like, it seems like such a strange thing for a manufacturer to be like, well, we got to make the cars for Algeria with different valve seats because they still use lead in their fuel. Like, just
So
strange.
uh, we didn't talk about. So the reason why it was so bad and they quickly realized they needed to get rid of it was because if you use it in a fuel, it comes out the tailpipe as emissions. It literally was like aerating lead. Like so,
That's
for a
fine.
long time, there, yeah, for a long time there was literally just lead in the air.
It's really good for
So
developing children.
yeah, that's where they were finding it. They were finding it in kids and like in people. And early researchers are like, "Where's all this lead coming from?" Like, couldn't figure it out. And then they finally realized that it was being spewed out of the tailpipe, and you
Yeah,
breathe it in.
it's
So
nasty stuff for a developing
yeah,
child to ingest that much lead, and that's part of the reason that you have all these lead protocols for paint in old houses. If you get a house built pre 1975, or 77, whatever year it is, they want to you have to get a lead inspection to make sure there's no lead in the paint on the place, so that you could actually sell the house because they don't want children eating lead chips anymore because turns out it ain't good for them. So it's just strange how much
well,
stuff lead was in.
you can get it just from even just contact. It's turns out
Yeah,
because
it's crazy.
even our son had to be tested because and it was like some normal acceptable amount, and the pediatrician was like, yeah, that's just like a baseline. It just exists, like it's just out there.
It's wild.
Even yeah, even this because this house we tested multiple different spots and couldn't find lead. So at some point it was either painted over very heavily or removed.
Because your house was
But
built in what, 1922?
1920.
1920? Yeah.
Yep.
So there's definitely lead paint in there somewhere buried deep.
Yeah, but so just it's not even great for adults. Like it just
No, I'm not.
just
I'm not
stays in the
saying that's
system.
exclusively bad for children. It's bad for everybody, but it was exclusively bad for children because it affected something in their neurological system and it stunts their you know learning ability. It's nasty stuff.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting though. But anyway,
It's
thought we
neat
followed
stuff.
up with that.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm glad it's gone. Again, it's not gone because it's still aviation fuel and race gas, but I'm glad it's gone and all the other reasons. Listen, it's kind of
Mhm.
hard to be a environmentally friendly car enthusiast sometimes. So any win's a win, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I know we're doing this thing that is, not cool with environmentalists, and we want to try to be as little impact as possible on our surrounding environment and still enjoy the things we enjoy to continue to enjoy them for the rest of our lives. So it's good to see any improvement's good improvement.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent,
Got
Andrew.
anything else?
I don't. I think I'm good. I'll tell you what. I am a hungry man now. I'm ready to
All right. We'll
ready
let
to
you
go eat
get to
some
dinner. This
dinner.
is a long episode. All right, cool. So, uh, you can find me on Off Topic. No, sorry, you can find the podcast on Off Topic Podcast on Facebook, Off Topic on Instagram. You can find me, Race and Anger, on Instagram, and I'm hanging out on Twitter lately. And Brad, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at TSISS350.
All right, cool. So as always, keep your guys analog, lead free, and aim for the roses.